Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the TransHampton podcast. This is episode 3 for, March, isn't it, of 2024. We've got a few things to be able to go through. I'm with my co-host.
I'm Orla, she, her pronouns.
I'm Mabel, she, her pronouns.
And I'm Sam with she, her pronouns. First topic that we do have today is the Trans Pride events, what Mabel wants to be able to go through.
Absolutely. So trans events specifically for this weekend, of course. We're currently recording this on the 30th of March. So we're right in the middle of Easter weekend, and also this year the weekend too for trans visibility. So we've got a few events to go through. We'll start with the one closest to home, which is called the Dragon Drop. So that's at the Stage Door in Southampton. And that's a number of different talks, a couple of drag shows, including the New Milton Breakout Youth team, I believe. And yeah, they've got a couple of scientists in talking about astronomy, how the universe is observed, some really big stuff. I think too much for me to be able to wrap my head around. But for anyone who's, of course, interested in queer stuff and sciencey stuff, you've got that. And I know that they've got a DJ after party too. So that's tomorrow from 1:45 at the Stage Door, again in Southampton there, right in the Cultural Quarter. A little bit further away also, there is the Trans Family Fun Day. So that's tomorrow as well, from 12 noon to 6 p.m. That's in Manchester, and that's being run by Sparkle. So I'm not too sure if any of you have heard of that, or either of you have heard of that before. They're the National Transgender Charity. So yeah, that's of course in Manchester there, as I just said. And yesterday, Trans Pride it wasn't yesterday, it was today. Trans Pride Scotland had their march and event in Kilmarnock. And I was just looking at the video that they took, posted an hour ago with the march, and they did get a really good turnout, it looks like. So hopefully all of our Scottish watchers have had a good weekend too there.
We've got puberty blockers and the Labour Party, what you have, Orla.
So as you may have heard, the NHS has come down with the directive from the government to ban puberty blockers from trans youth. They will only be used in experimental situations for research purposes and only for a handful of kids. It's a pain in the arse. There's not really much we can do about it. We kind of knew this was going to happen. It'd been on the books for a while now, going back a couple of years. They'd been debating it for ages. It's a win for the government. There's not really a lot we can do about it. We just have to rally and fight again. The puberty blockers have been around since the 70s for cis kids, and they were used in trans kids from the 80s. So we have a wealth. We have like 30, 40 years of data, over 40 years of data on how effective puberty blockers are. But the government has decided, with the support of the NHS management, that they're going to ban them for trans youth. It just means trans youth are going to have to go through puberty. It's another way of keeping us in the closet, trying to delay people from transitioning, hoping that they'll never do it. This is all this is, keeping us in the closet. If they can affect trans youth, they can get to the adults. The Labour Party is rolling back its policy on trans rights. Under Jeremy Corbyn, they were quite pro-trans rights. When Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition, came to power in the Labour Party as leader, he did say some positive things on trans rights, but as he was elected in 2019, I think, and since then, no, 2020, and since then, he has slowly rolled back the rhetoric on trans rights to the point where on the 12th of March this year, 2024, he supported sporting governing bodies from banning trans people from taking part in sporting events. So he said it was a sensible idea and it should be left up to the common sense of these organisations. There's not really much that can be said other than the fact that if you're looking for a party to vote for in this general election and you're trans and you want to vote on trans rights, you haven't got much of a choice. So I'm not going to tell you not to vote Labour because everybody wants to get rid of the Tories. If you're trans and you're voting Labour and you're hoping they're going to be better on this issue, I don't think they are. Not with the media being as vitriolic towards us as they are. The Labour Party is going to toe a media line that sucks up to the papers and the press. So as long as they continue to remain transphobic, there's not a great deal the Labour Party is going to do positively towards us.
Yeah, no, sorry if you don't mind. We did do that whole statement, of course, about our statements against the banning of puberty blockers. There, it's ridiculous how, of course, there's these studies. There was one that I referenced in the statement that we writ up there about how there's not really an issue with bone mineral density decreases, which is like the main scaremongering tactic people have against puberty blockers being used for trans people, and yeah, there just isn't any real scientific evidence that these are dangerous for people. It's not just a huge experiment that some gender critical people like to say. There's no evidence for it at all, but somehow the government have just been lobbied into banning it for all of the trans kids really who could be hoping to get it whilst on the kids waiting lists. I think it's terrible, really. It makes me feel like the reason why they don't want to ban, the reason why they don't want to ban conversion therapy is because they'd get told off for doing the stuff that they do, for being so hateful. It really is frustrating.
Yeah, you can't see a win, can you? It's just one thing on top of another at the moment.
And that is the thing. It seems to be constant that like any political party at this point is just turning around to going, well, we're not going to do anything for trans people. And one of the things that you said previously, I don't know if it was on an episode of the podcast or anything, Ola, but you mentioned about how the best thing that we could possibly have like next election is when someone gets in, if it's Labour or whoever else, best case scenario, they leave us alone for a couple of years sort of thing. And to be honest, that's probably best case scenario at this point, because there's really no other party that rather has a fighting chance or even has political beliefs to go towards, hey, trans rights and making sure that everyone's all right. It's like even the Tory government has even put in some statements to be able to even turn around and try and get votes from LGBT people. What really sucks, because it's the case of like, you know, one or two people are going to just go vote for them because they're like, oh, we're the best equality wise and stuff like that. And it's like, no, that it doesn't seem like there's any party that really has our ideals in question. It's something that me and Mabel have mentioned about privately, just trying to work out if there's a way that LGBT rights, especially like trans rights and stuff, can be withheld in the government. But unless you create your own party and try and push for it and spend the tons of money that you need to be able to get anywhere politically, then there's no way of really doing anything. And that's if people vote for you as well. And there's not many votes when it comes to being trans. So
so we talked a little bit about if there was an LGBT party, and that kind of led to a bit of a discussion there about just fringe parties in general, really, parties that kind of go against the two-party system. Of course, in the political system that we've got with voting, at least, with, of course, first past the post, it's not really something that is practical there. I think what, at least my opinion is, what we could encourage people to do is just, if you're interested in politics, see if you can maybe canvass for a party that's at least nice to trans people locally, and see if you can get involved, see if you can get into, say, your civic centre, see if you can be a councillor or higher than that. I don't think there's going to be much hope, really, or much movement unless we can get a couple of trans MPs, because that's what we're short of, really. We're very underrepresented.
So, in the local elections in the city, you did this, Mabel, and I did this last year. The Socialist Party are going to stand another two trans candidates. I think Donna is standing and Clara is definitely standing again. But even talking about that with political parties, the Socialist Party put out a platform manifesto the other day, which was up for conference debate, and it basically said we don't want to do identity politics. So they're not even going to talk about us. So the only one party that I've managed to find and join that supports trans rights openly and will say it is not going to run with it as an issue and is going to put it down as an identity politics issue that they don't want to touch. They're going to stand two trans candidates, but they're not going to touch it as a national issue at the general election if the Socialist Party stands as a party or if they stand under the Tusk banner again. So even when it comes to my own party that I've joined because of their representation on queer rights, they don't even want to talk about it, really. They don't even want to deal with it. So what hope have you got? You got the Green Party that has their leaders resign because the core of the party is opposing trans rights, and there's two wings of the Green Party fighting against each other. Liberal Democrats say good things, but again, they have two wings of their party fighting against each other on this issue. There's not really a lot of places we can go. And as you said, Mabel, the Socialist Party is a fringe party. They stand under the banner of Tusk because they don't have enough money to stand nationally. And Tusk is all union politics. It's not really intersectionality or anything like that, really.
Trans Pride Southwest has recently rebranded to Trans Pride Bristol. And that was simply due to they've realized that there is a lot more trans prides in the Southwest area, obviously. I think they have just been doing their main event in Bristol anyway. I don't know if they moved around previously or anything. But they rebranded to Trans Pride Bristol, at least in the next couple of days or so. They've been talking about it in the chat for past month or so. The point of that is just simply there's things like Trans Pride Southampton, Trans Pride Portsmouth, even Trans Pride Winchester, as well as many other many other further Southwest trans prides was good. It's good to have so many trans prides. We can't I wouldn't want to turn around and have to control or manage or whatever you want to call it. The whole aspect of trans rights in Hampshire, for instance, that would be a bit too much for us to be able to do.
Yeah, the Southwest is a big area. Yeah, I didn't envy them with that. Think about Trans Pride Scotland as well, because they're so big too. But yeah, as you were saying, Sam, there has been a real boom of trans prides in the area. Of course, 3 years ago, I think it was just the Trans Pride Southwest one that was, and maybe Plymouth as well, and of course Trans Pride Southwest and Bristol. But this year there's the Gloucester one being set up, Portsmouth as well, because that's kind of southwesty, like we are when we hit the scene 2 years ago, and Trans Pride Winchester. So yeah, there are a lot of them now in the southwest. It does kind of make sense.
Yeah, so that's a very positive thing that they're doing, and I wish them luck with their name change, especially as name changes can be very difficult for any sort of organization at all. But luckily, it should hopefully show them a little bit further and show them that they're a little bit more connected with the Bristol area, and hopefully that goes all right for them. We have Trans Day of Visibility, 15 years. Mabel, do you want to talk about how Trans Day of Visibility has gone through the past 15 years or whatever it's been running?
So I saw an article earlier on that was released today from NPR. I think they're an American news site there, and it was written on behalf of the founder of Trans Day of Visibility. It began 15 years ago, of course, as we've said, and the founder's still moved by its success. So the founder themselves, Rachel Crandall Crocker, they have just been blown away how it's become an international movement, more or less. There's going to be events all across the world, as I said there. Well, as I mentioned a moment ago, there's 3 that I know of: the Family Fun Day, the Drag and Drop one in Southampton, and then also we just had Trans Pride Scotland too. So there's these big events every time this year. Rachel themselves, they're a person who suffers with Tourette's. So as a disabled person as well, they do still feel really inspired how they've been able to change the world, as it were, there. They had a pretty good statement, I'd say. They made a very nice statement at the end of the article where she just said, "I have a disability, However, I changed the world, and you don't have to be perfect. Come and change it along with me. And I think that's a really nice way how the article did finish there. It certainly is a lot, I think, for people to think about, maybe, how you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have, say, a messiah complex or something like that there to be able to start an organization or something, and or just get an idea out with other people's minds and see where it goes. Yeah, so I thought that was a pretty nice article there. And also something else that I found too about the Transgender Day of Visibility is, of course, it's always the 31st of March, but this year it's also Easter Sunday. And there's been a lot of things circulating on social media because, you know, us two, we know how it goes. There's not a lot of Trans Day of Visibility posts from our community, but there's certainly a lot of trans posts, well, anti-trans posts from the gender critical community. And there's been certainly a lot this year about how, it's always on Easter. It's the occasion was designed to be on Easter to take it away from the Christians, or most of them probably aren't even Christian. They're just the people who are against us. And routers, however they call themselves there, this new site, they actually released a fact checked yesterday about how it's not always on Easter, it's just on March the 31st, and that happens to be Easter this year. I thought that was a bit funny there.
Easter moves around, people.
The thing is, we've of course made a video and everything that we're releasing on YouTube and everything, and the Southampton Pride one that we actually created, released lately, what was really good. It's the case of, like, we mentioned in the video, one of the videos, I think it was the R1, that no one wants to be visible this time of year, especially with, like, trans people and stuff. We don't want to be visible, especially with what the government are saying about us and the hatred that we get day to day. We're not going to want to be visible everywhere. And you could say, it's if you get to the point that you pass, like, you'll be invisible and you don't have to worry about it then, or whatever. But not everyone, that's not their route for their transition. And it's also the case of, like, it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be the case of, like, you have to hide one way or the other. You have to turn around and act like you're, like, assigned a gender at birth, sort of thing. You shouldn't have to turn around and just do that to be able to make other people feel comfortable. If anything, you should be more comfortable in your own skin. If someone else turns around and goes, I'm not comfortable because you're trans, they should just go away. Why should me feeling depressed, me feeling awful and everything like that be a stance that, your opinion of you turning around and you feeling comfortable is better than me feeling comfortable in my own skin and being myself, more than anything. And I hope that in the future, in another 15 years time, when like Trans Day of Visibility carries on, I hope that I and many other trans people can get to the point that we're not only feeling comfortable in our skin, but hopefully be able to actually be out there without too many problems. And maybe we won't need Trans Day of Visibility, because every day we can be visible without feeling the possible hatred that we're going to get. Maybe we won't get to the point of that anytime soon, but it's also the case of we got to push for it.
I second that motion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Hopefully things can get a little bit better there, or a lot better, really. I was beating myself up about it a little while ago, about how I'm never really that visible as a trans person or just a feminine person in general. I think the two of you have kind of criticised me in a playful way there, and I'm sure I'm surprised for so many people. Yeah, well, I'm sure there's a lot of people that maybe saw me in trans events or just People's Pride or whatever, and were a bit surprised that I'm not always, like, as feminine maybe as I act on those events, which is what I'd want to be. But I always feel like I do kind of have to hide myself because of this hate. And yeah, I think me and you all, I think we were talking about it a little while ago, and I was really, really not annoyed, but I was a bit upset about the Transgender Day of Visibility event, because it's about being visible, and it's not always something I'm very comfortable with being. But reading the article that I found too from the founder there really does put in perspective what it really is about, because it's not about putting a target on your back, which is what I'm always worried about. there. It's about how festivals are organised around this time, again, like Trans Pride Scotland, and stuff like that. There's parties, there's skyscrapers that colour themselves with the trans colours. And yes, it is a lot more than that.
If it's any consolation, Mabel, Danny watched back. Danny is for people who don't know, Danny is our friend. He does the Spectrum radio show. He's also the co-founder of Pride in Southampton. He said the two of us who did we did the video for Pride, we looked very glamorous.
Oh.
He thought we looked very stunning on the video. So if that's any consolation, Mabel.
Thank you. How was the radio show today? How was Southampton?
It was really good. It was really good. We had a lot of banter. We were going to talk. We talked a little bit about the boycott, the so-called the idea of having a boycott around Eurovision because of Israel Gaza.
Yeah,
but we couldn't go into too much detail because of the restrictions on the radio station and not taking a political stance. So that was the only bit of difficulty. Other than that, we had a good banter. It was really good. It was a good show today. Did
you talk about Transgender Day Visibility at all?
We did, yes. We talked about the two videos. Danny mentioned we both look pretty glamorous in them. He's seen the video and he's liked it. He said it was very well done. We touched on the day. We talked about the idea of the day. Danny asked me what I was going to do. He said, would I go out in public? I said, no, probably not. I'll probably stay indoors. But like Sam said, I'm going to be online. So I'm going to do a series of videos and some posts on Instagram.
Yeah. At least you can do that. I'm working, so I can't do that either.
Yeah, you're working, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm going to try and stay active on our new socials, what we'll describe and talk about later anyway, because there's a topic about that, sort of. It is the case of, like, I want to be more active on our socials in general, but it's also the case of, why not? It would be cool to be able to do that, as well as, I would like to create some more videos. I like creating my own personal videos, but I would love to be able to work on some more Trans Pride videos, just in general, not the Trans Play UK, the gaming side of things, but just general videos that we can work on where we can talk about topics like this in possibly more detail than what we do on the podcast and everything, especially as if we've got time to talk about it and we do it however long. It's the case of we can do a 20-minute video or whatever about puberty blockers alone, or anything else. So that's what I'm doing.
In terms of
Trans Day.
Hopefully that goes well there, Sam. I'm sure when I'm working, I'll pop in and make sure you're okay through the day there. In terms of posts, just whilst we're on that, actually, because I always do like the photo posts or the written posts with Trans Pride. I feel like I've been burnt out with them since LGBT History Month. Since we've done one of them a day. Like I just feel like I haven't bounced back from that. Mind you, it might just be because I've started getting into exercise and I'm really tired from that, maybe.
Yeah.
It's probably that, to be honest. Yeah, I probably seem really tired right now. I did a 5K run this morning. I'm just like,
bloody hell, Mabel.
Yeah, and the clocks go back tonight, so I'm not going to get a decent night's sleep.
You're going to lose an hour.
Yeah, I'm going to lose an hour of sleep before work tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh. If it's any consolation, Mabel, it'll be lighter in the evening, so you can do some running in the evening.
yeah, that's what I've got to look forward to. Yeah.
We've got J.K. Rowling Holocaust denial. So there's actually a link to this. All the links that we do have for what we're talking about and stuff, we'll try and leave as many of them in the show notes as possible. And hopefully you can check it out yourself and be able to read about these articles. This one's specifically from jkrowling.com, what is a, I guess, blog-like website where what J.K. Rowling says gets put out onto this to be able to, of course, just sort of archive it in some way. A statement from J.K. Rowling on the 14th of March 2024, explaining why she said what she said and about how Holocaust denial and everything was, I'm used to the gross distraction techniques used by the more extreme faction of the trans activism. The claims that I am a Holocaust denier is a baseless and disgusting, as can be easily seen from my own Twitter/X account. I've always been a strong supporter of the Jewish community and have outspoken. and you can read more and everything. But I think that's enough of J.K. Rowling that we can sort of read of her words.
I just think you need to be careful. Is she taking part in Holocaust denial? Well, technically, the Holocaust refers to the genocide of the Jewish community. Holocaust is made up of two words. I forget what the first one is, but the last one is Shoah, which is a Hebrew word for basically killing people, I think. And she is technically right, but she's also technically wrong. The best way to say it is she is denying Nazi war crimes. She is saying that the trans community were not victims of Nazi persecution, which is bullshit. We were. There's court records to say we were. There's a wealth of evidence. You just need to go to the Holocaust Memorial Society. They have a whole page on it. Berlin court ruled in 2022, 2023 that the trans community were victims of the Holocaust. Again, the wealth of evidence is a multitude out there to go through. So, yeah, she is denying at the bare minimum Nazi war crimes against the trans community. I don't know where she thinks she gets off. I think basically that it stems from the tweet that went out where they were saying to JK that in a tweet, basically, don't you realize that where you deny trans people their rights and you pick on this minority and you deny they were victims of a genocide, you are playing into the fascist rhetoric of Nazism. And they're just basically saying, do you realize what you're doing? Now, yes, she does. She has liked tweets from fascists. She has supported Matt Walsh, who is a neo-fascist. She supported his video, What is a Woman, which is just a diatribe of bullshit. She likes tweets from people who regard themselves as fascists. Her rhetoric is coupled around the idea of the traditional woman, the image of the traditional woman in that 50s, 1950s, 40s sense. So she harks back to a traditional portrayal of the feminine role. It's fascism. That's what it is. And I think we need to call her out for using fascist takes. Whether she realizes that's what she's doing, or she, in these tweets, moves the goalpost by saying, oh no, I'm not denying they weren't victims of the Holocaust or the Nazi war crimes. I'm just saying they're not the first of the victims. That's not what her tweet said. That's not what she was referring to. So she's already moved the goalpost because she realizes she's been caught out. All you got to do is go over J.K. Rowling's Twitter stream from the last 3 years. All she's doing is picking on a small minority that has no voice for itself. That's all she's doing. She's a victim of of domestic abuse. If she'd come out and supported people who'd suffered domestic abuse and talked up on that level about the suffering people suffer at the hands of their partners in some situations, she would have remained a beloved author. Now she's just seen as, she's either loved or she's despised. She's either seen as a person only asking questions, or she's seen as a fascist. She's kind of trashed her own copybook.
It's so sad. Yeah. I just remember school assemblies. So, like, I think it was either before or at the start of when the transphobia was starting to happen with J.K. Rowling, at least publicly there, and it hadn't really hit mainstream levels yet. It wasn't something that people associated with J.K. Rowling. I remember there was a school assembly about her, and it did focus on the domestic abuse. It focused on the issues that she had with trying to find a publisher for her Harry Potter books, and it was about just being courageous and never giving up. And I don't think something like that could happen today, because she's ruined her legacy. At least for people that care about at least a modicum of trans rights, or the fact that she's now stepping into even more dangerous territory, of course, regarding the denial of the Nazi war crimes. It's just awful, really. And it's so obvious that trans people have been the victims of Nazi war crimes there. Think about I'm going to completely ruin the pronunciation, the Institute for Sexual Wissenschaft, so the Institute of Sexology. That was in Berlin, and it was raided, and it was the books were burned there. And I do believe that a very early on, one of the first trans people to receive medical help there was killed within those book burnings. I'm pretty sure there.
There were 2 trans women in the institute when it was raided, and we don't really have any documentation that says what happened to them after the institute was raided. So there's 2 of them in there, and afterwards we don't know what happened to them. They just disappear from the historical record. Come to your own conclusions. But she's wrong as well. So just to correct her, it is factually correct to say the queer community as a whole were the first victims of the Holocaust. They were. Hitler had only been in power 3 months when the institute was raided. It was the first big thing they did. It was the first big state-issued roundup of queer people. They were targeted first. It was the queer community that was targeted first. They were the ones who were rounded up. They were the ones who were arrested and put in Dachau because it was a concentration camp. That's where they were arrested and taken to. The Shoah, the Holocaust, didn't really kind of got kicked off in 1938 after Kristallnacht, when a Jewish guy assassinated the German ambassador to Paris in France, and Goebbels used it as an excuse to launch Kristallnacht that then led to the Holocaust. So yeah, it is kind of factually correct to say the queer community were the first main group to be targeted by the Nazis.
Yeah. Also, you are asking about what Holocaust actually means. It's a Greek word meaning, burnt offering.
Yeah, I know part of it. Shoah is what the Jewish community call it.
So yeah, that's what Holocaust
Shoah
at least means in.
It's 2 words, isn't it, Sam?
Holocaust is 1 word. It's
1 word.
It's
right.
1 word, but it means 2 in Greek, and it's burnt offering.
Right. Nice clarification, Sam.
Yeah. So yeah, she's denied, and she's stating that like she hasn't done anything against the Jewish community, even though that we were saying about it before, the bankers in Harry Potter from like the first film and the first book and all that, and of course onwards in the series, they're very coded to be very Jewish. If you actually look into it, I think in the book it describes about greed of money and things like that, what is a typically like hurtful term that is used for Jewish community and things, of loving of money and things. So
they look like a trope, don't they?
Yes, there's like certain things like long noses and things that are tropes that are harmful for the Jewish community. That is, I don't know how to describe it. Just a hurtful thing that you would describe someone to. Yeah, stereotype.
It's a trope, a stereotype, a trope.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
There were quite a few articles brought up about it in 2022, just from of course their appearances and how it is essentially an anti-Semitic caricature. I think it's been called out a lot earlier than that too, but there was it was kind of brought up again a lot in 2022, and it just goes back to how of course it seems like she's starting to deny Nazi war crimes, and of course she is a fan of people like Matt Walsh, of course, people who do call themselves and can be described as fascists. It just shows that it's been there bubbling away under the surface for a very long time. I don't like talking about JK for too long. Even when I see articles with her and I see her face, I do kind of like start to avoid them. But yeah, no, there's just so much. Like we could talk about it for hours. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a reason. If you are on things like Twitter, try and move away from those areas, especially as incentivizes people to show hatred towards people, as well as gives you like positivity as such. With negativity, it gives you the positive thing of likes and all this other stuff and followers, and people love you, and then they turn around and hate you and go at you, and then you go at them again, and it's just a cesspit at this point. I wouldn't suggest to be on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. I know a lot of the trans people prefer calling it Twitter because in the end of the day, why the hell call a platform X, as well as all of that. To go on to a more happy topic, though, we're going to go to the Scottish Rail standing up for LGBTQ plus rights. So this is, let me actually open it up so I can actually read it. So this is something that I actually saw on our news socials, what is through the decentralized platform called the Fediverse, or also known as Mastodon, all these other things. If you want to join us on there, then you can. I'll leave a link in the description and we'll describe about it even further. But there's a thing that I saw on there what was pretty cool. What is Scottish Rail? It's seen our pride of ScotRail train yet? Don't worry. If not, it'll be wearing this design until it needs repainting in 2029. Meaning, what's that, like over 6+7 years or something like that? Till basically 2030. So that's a pretty long time, about 5-6 years or whatever. It's actually a progress flag on the train itself, or at least at the front of the train. Oh, it looks pretty cool. Someone then commented saying, "Hey, I take it you'll also be painting one in straight colours, or will be or we will be discriminated against." Stating that like straight people are discriminated against. They're obviously the minority here. Straight people, they're barely existing. I don't think I've ever talked to a straight person. And Scottish Rail actually turned around and went, "Hey, straight people aren't punched in the face for holding hands with their life partner, nor are they executed in other countries simply for being straight. Please educate yourself on the matter before commenting." And such nonsense. So yeah, I commented on that. I forgot why I actually commented on it, but I commented on it as trans pride and everything, and that's where it is. I thought that was a really hilarious feedback. And what do you lot think?
Nice comeback.
Yeah, I think they put a lot into that there. There was thought behind it. It wasn't just a random gesture that they done and they just started ignoring the haters and let the comments run rampant. They actually did come back in a meaningful way. I like that.
Kind of shut it down, didn't they? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely shows that like Scottish Rail, at least some parts of Scotland, are very inclusive. Left wing or whatever you want to call them, that they do believe in LGBT rights, at least for the most part. Obviously they weren't defending trans rights there, they were just defending LGBT rights in general, and of course their statement was more towards gay people and lesbians and things more than anything. But it is the case of it's nice to see them defend the LGBT community in any part, because I don't see many organizations. I don't know if they're an organization or if they're technically a part of I don't think they're part of the government. They're privatized, aren't they? Most likely, like our local ones in Southampton and stuff. But it's nice to see a area of the UK actually defend LGBT rights.
Why does it always have to be Scotland, though? Why can't we do it in England as well? We always leave it up to the Scots to do the good stuff.
That's the thing. They're doing so much good things in Scotland at the current moment. It's almost to the point that we have to travel from Southampton, one of the lowest points of the country. And if we want to be able to turn around and actually get some respect or even just common courtesy, we need to go all the way up to the top of the UK. And it sucks if we have to do that.
Travel 500 miles just to be accepted.
Respect. Yeah.
Just to get like correctly gendered for once, sort of thing. Like it sucks that it seems to be the opposite side of where we are, but it's nice to see at least some of the positivity in the UK and all that. And I guess we'll all be packing our bags and moving to Scotland if they actually do try and separate from the UK again.
I guess it goes all the way back to when I don't think it was when the Romans invaded Britain. I think it was the Vikings, where the Anglo-Saxons were saying England and Wales were really, really taking the brunt of it, and it was the Scottish that were properly fighting there. They were the vanguard. It feels like that, but now it's about trans rights now and how they're supporting us compared to down here in England.
They're a little bit more progressive up there.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the opposite of what America is like, isn't it? We seem to be very flipped with like America and our South.
Well, I would say if we were to be compared to America, I'd say England is the deep South. Northern Ireland is a bit confusing because it's a bit of both. And Wales and Scotland tend to be the progressive states. Your Californias, your Colorados, your Maines, your New Englands.
New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. To our last topic, and that's Meta failing to moderate extreme anti-trans hate on its platforms. What, of course, is Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. What is their new Fediverse thing that they're trying to federate and bring to the decentralized network? What we use a lot of Meta stuff in our systems. It's only like an observation. From what I have researched about Meta in the recent week, it's the case of they've recently been found out about using a protection-based app, so something to protect you from outside sources and viruses and all this other stuff, not under their own brand, but as a separate entity that they purchased. They put in a Trojan, and they turned around and started collecting a ton of data off your phone and things like that, as well as they collect a ton of data across the whole lot of the internet when you are using your Google based stuff and everything, and they just take a lot of data. But this article is talking about how GLAAD report, GLAAD, published on Wednesday the 27th of March, claims that like transphobic slurs, including claims of groomers, what is of course something that I'm pretty sure all three of us have actually been called several times since we've come out. It is the case of we keep being called groomers when we just want to live our life. It's not the case of we care about kids. If anything, we just fucking hate kids. It's the case of we don't want to be around kids. I hate being around a bus with kids and everything. I just want to get off, but I need to get to my destination. Was very strange. But it is the case of they talk about all of it and how it seems that the platform is getting worse, even though that their platform does state that any hatred towards trans people and stuff is against their rules. They seem to not do anything about it, even if you report it. What is, of course, annoying. It's similar to what Twitter's doing.
That's really bad. That's really bad. Oh. But that's the same for Meta, isn't it? They got into a lot of trouble for being too left-wing about 5-6 years ago. So they decided to skew the algorithm, so it just churned out right-wing political content like it was going out of fashion. And so someone like me who posts on Facebook, suppressed by the algorithm, you're too left-wing for us, not interested. We want hate, we want vitriol, we want fascism. That's what gets eyeballs. And so that's all they do. I've told you this before, Sam. My feed on Facebook is just filled up of garbage. I hardly see any posts from people like Mabel or you. I have to keep scrolling real far down before I get other people that I follow.
So I like seeing my feeds in chronological order. I like seeing the latest post to the oldest post. I mean, I can scroll and I can be like, oh, I'm a week back now. I don't need to watch or look at anything anymore. When I go on Facebook, I normally go on my PC because it's the case of it. I prefer using my 3-monitor setup. It's a lot easier to be able to see everything that you want to be able to see on the internet compared to a tiny iPhone SE that I use. Yeah, it's a decent sized screen. But I had to try and find a way to be able to actually make my feed in chronological order. It's behind like 3 buttons hidden away in like a menu. It's so hard to be able to do it. And then it's showing me everything, and I still have to refresh if something new comes in. It's not like it just pops it up and goes, hey, by the way, a new post here. It doesn't even bring up an icon or anything. It's just like, hey, we're going to do that. And it still shows ads and stuff. And one of the worst things about Facebook is like every like 2-3 posts you go to ad about something that you don't care about, or it's the case of you already have it, or it's the case of it's like, oh, here's a really intrusive ads that we know that you really have been talking about this one product lately, and not on our platform or anything, just somewhere else. and that definitely proves a lot of their data tracking and stuff. Facebook is not a good safe space, but there's 3 billion users on it, and it's why a lot of people use it. Their family and friends are on it, and there's plenty of people they don't want to lose on it, and it kind of sucks that it's a big thing now.
For boomers.
But this is where we're messing around with a few things, because we mainly post our posts on Meta. We post it across the Meta business suite, where we got Facebook and Instagram that we post across to. We occasionally use Threads for trans pride and everything. And that's pretty much where we post mainly. The only other place that we really post is sometimes our Discord server that I've now redeveloped. But also we've now started doing it on the Fediverse, the decentralized stuff that we want to get into, on the pure factor of realizing that, like, hey, if we really want to, we can start our own server and do that. And that means that we own all our content and we don't have to worry about all the data and everything. But it's also the case of there's a huge queer community on there. You'll be surprised how many queer people are using a decentralized platform instead of things like X or Twitter or like Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, because rather they don't want their data collected and all of this other stuff that happens, tons of ads, all of this other stuff. But it's also the case of they realize that, like, it's not useful platforms most of the time. You don't get a connection with people. You like their thing that they posted up, you didn't even read it, and you scroll on instead of anything else. And knowing that they're anti-trans is definitely a step in the direction that you do want to sort of move away from it even further.
It's just a cesspit.
It's just another cesspit, and it's because it's centralized platforms. They're there for profit. They're not there for you to make connections or anything. They may seem like it, but it's the case of they're there to be able to show you content, try and keep you on the platform as long as possible, rather because you're trying to fix your algorithm and go through things, follow things that you enjoy, and it's showing you things that you don't like, so you dislike it and you move on. Or it's the case of they show you things to hate and you turn around and go, oh, I hate this and all that, and you comment on it and make someone's day unhappy more than anything. So we definitely want to move away from there eventually, but we'll see as we go along.
I got a load of hate on my latest video on YouTube. I don't know what that's to do with. Yeah, I did. I didn't get any positive comments on it. I got 4 messages and they're all hate. It's done really well for one of my videos on YouTube. But I just got a backlog of hate from it.
Yeah. I'm glad it's done well. It's a shame about the hate, though.
The thing is, we're 3 people that are openly trans and online and stuff. There's a point that we can be online way too much, and we get to the point that we start hating ourselves as well as other people, or we post things online in a way and we end up with the wrong audience, just on the pure factor that it seems like a lot of people that are hating on the trans community find trans content because they're searching for it, or they comment on it, or they dislike it, what still is a reaction, what means that you might see some similar content in a way. It doesn't seem like a lot of people realize that a lot of these algorithms, if you interact with it at all, it will show you it more. And it just sucks that it's a lot of like transphobic people that end up on your content. Hopefully that fixes it in the future.
Here is Tilly.
You got your cat.
Cat cam. There are, everybody. Just lower your blood pressure. Lower your blood pressure. That's it.
I didn't realize how boiling I would be while sitting here. But thank you very much for joining me in this episode.
That's all right,
we went through all 8 topics that we wanted to be able to talk about. If you do have any topics yourself, audience, that you want to be able to actually have us talk about in the future and everything, you can check us out on the decentralized platforms if you really wish to, or you can check us out on Facebook or Instagram. Where can they find you, Orla?
They can find me on YouTube at Orla Scory Auckland. Just type in the whole word, the whole name. And I'm also on Instagram, and that'll be in the link below. It's Lenny_Auckland. I'm on Facebook, but I only really use Facebook for family and close friends. I do post videos on there, but that's only for my family and friends. If you want my videos, YouTube or Instagram.
Okay, I'll leave them in the show notes. Mabel, what is your socials that they can contact you on?
So I publicly use both Instagram mainly, but also Threads. For both of those, I believe I'm Mabel of Southampton. I think it's my username for both.
It should be, especially as Threads is a Instagram-based app, so it would make sense that it would.
Yeah, it should be the same then. Yeah, I'm on YouTube if people really want to deeply search for me. But I did one video, like my first video this month, and it was just a really badly edited vlog of doing parkrun and making a
I thought it
sandwich.
was all
after
right,
that.
Mabel.
You thought it was
I thought it was all right.
What it was a good video, but instead of recording vertically, record horizontally and edit horizontally, because you recorded it vertically but edited horizontally, meaning you had black bars both sides and it was a square. If you went for a design like that, it would be fine, but you had the camera very close to you, as well as it would have been better with no black bars. So it's something to look at in the future if you were to do more episodes.
Yeah, I might do another episode. I'll have to think about it.
You got good views for your first one out, Mabel.
Did it? I didn't look at the views.
It's over. Well, last time I looked, it was over 25.
Oh, well.
Look at your statistics in a bit. We'll download the statistics app and go through all of that.
Fishing for compliments over it.
And if you want to be able to check me out on any socials, then the best place is the Fediverse at the current moment. So I'll leave a link to my, I think I use lethallava.land, but you can find me on Mastodon or anywhere else that you want to be able to check out, as well as if you want to be able to check me out anywhere else, really YouTube or maybe Instagram if you want to really check me out any other place. I'll leave a link in the show notes to all three of them if you want to go check them out. But definitely Mastodon and things are the best place for me.
I just checked. It was 61 views.
61 views. Is there anything else you two want to say before we end the episode?
I feel bad for the 61 people that saw that video.
I like the thumbnail. You look like you were having an aneurysm.
She didn't pick it, that's why.
Yeah, I know. YouTube are awful when they do that. They pick awful ones out for me. I always with my mouth open.